Okay, we're going to go ahead and start back up. So now we're going to talk about the difference between insert and overwrite. So for the first part of this edit, we were just putting one clip right after another. Okay, and we could achieve that by doing insert or overwrite. Just play ahead at the end of your sequence, insert or overwrite, one clip right after another. But now let's really take a look at the difference between insert and overwrite. Let's go to the beginning of our sequence here. And we've got this other bin in our project that we're calling cutaways. You might call it B-roll. But basically, they're just shots of things around Rory's desk that maybe we will use as kind of like establishing shot material. Okay, so we're going to go over to our project tab. We're going to double click our cutaways bin. We're going to put the bin in icon view. So once again, bottom left corner of the window here, we have list view, we have icon view, we have freeform view. We're just going to put this in icon view. Just going to make those a little larger, and we'll just grab a few of these to insert at the beginning of our sequence. Okay, so maybe we'll start with, I don't know, the little cat poster here. Okay, so I'm going to mark a few seconds of this. Okay, so I'm going to hit I to mark it in, O to mark it out. And I was just counting about 2 or 3 seconds out in my head as I did that. Okay, now let's look down the timeline. I have been kind of ignoring what's going on over here on the left side of the timeline. Here we have what's called, some people call this the patch panel. You can also call each of these individual areas for each track headers. But this is how we determine what tracks that are clips from our source monitor, where they're going to go in our timeline. Okay, so this sequence has 3 video tracks and 4 audio tracks. That's like the default setting for creating new sequences, that they by default have 3 video tracks, 4 audio tracks. Now, we have these what are called track selectors on the left. Okay, and we've got a video 1 track selector and an audio 1 track selector. This represents the clip that I have loaded in my source monitor. Okay, so this clip has 1 video track and 1 audio track. Now, if we go back to our scene 20 clips and load one of these into the source monitor, these clips had 3 tracks. They had 1 video track and 2 audio tracks. Okay, so once again, these track selectors on the left represent the clip that you have loaded in the source monitor. The track selectors on the right represent your timeline, your sequence. Now, when you're doing insert and overwrite edits, the only thing that matters are the track selectors on the left. In fact, if you rest your mouse over any of these, a tooltip will pop up that basically says that source patching for inserts and overwrites. Okay, so when you're doing inserts and overwrites, the only thing that matters is what's going on the left. The track selectors on the right, they can be on or off. In fact, I'm going to turn them off just to demonstrate this. And then I'm going to go back over to my cutaways bin, and I'm going to reload that cat picture here. Now, if we look right now, my video 1 source is pointing to my video 1 program or sequence track. And that means when I do this edit, my source video is going to go into track 1. My A1 right now is patched to A2. So if I did my edit right now, the sound from this clip would go onto the audio 2 track in the timeline. I don't want it to do that. I want it to go to audio 1. So I'm going to click and just drag it straight up. Okay, so notice we can click and we can move these around to patch them to other tracks, basically directing the audio or the video where we want them to go in the timeline. Okay, so for these first couple of edits, I want video 1 patched to video 1 target or program track, audio 1 patched to audio 1 target or program track. Okay, now I want to do an insert. I want to insert that clip in and push all these other clips down to the right. So I'm going to click the insert button or comma on my keyboard. And it inserts that clip, both video and audio, and pushes the other clips down to the right. Now I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to go down here to the bottom of my timeline, grab the side of the scroll bar here, kind of drag it to the left to zoom in, and I'm just going to drag my playhead back and play it.
Lunch break.
Okay, now I want to insert a couple of more clips at the beginning of my timeline. So I want to make sure and snap my playhead to this edit point. Now to snap your playhead to the edit point, there's a couple of things that we can do, but we're going to do this. We're going to do this. Go up to your Premiere Pro menu and go to Settings. Premiere Pro Settings. And go to your timeline settings. On a Windows system, they might be called Preferences, and you'll find it under one of your other menus. I think it's the Edit menu, maybe the File menu. But on a Mac, I'm on a Mac. So it's Premiere Pro Settings, Timeline. And check this box right here. There's a box called Snap Playhead in Timeline when Snap is enabled. Snap Playhead in Timeline when Snap is enabled. Check that box if it's not already checked. Click OK. And now, if you drag your playhead in your timeline, when it gets near an edit point, you will see it snap like a magnet to the edit. Okay, that is called snapping. And right here is the button that turns snapping on and off. This button right here that looks like a magnet. When it's blue, it's on. When it's gray, it's off. Okay, so I'm going to drag my playhead so it snaps to the edit point in between this first clip, the picture of the cat, and the first Scene 20 clip, because I want to insert a shot in between those. If you do not have it right at the edit point, if it's in the middle of another clip, it will actually split that clip when you do the edit, and we don't want that to happen. So that's why we have snapping on, so we make sure that our playhead is snapped to the edit. Alternatively, you can just use your up and down arrows until your playhead is at the edit point where you want to insert the clip. Okay, so I'm going to load another clip in. So I'll do, I'll do the shot of the stapler. Okay, and then once again, I'm just going to mark a couple of seconds of this. I to mark it in, O to mark it out, and then I'm going to hit the insert button or comma on my keyboard. It inserts that clip in, pushes the other clips down to the right. Okay, let's do two more of these. Let's see. First of all, we've got this shot here of the computer monitor, and that is out of focus. That's no good. Who shot this? Oh, wait a second, I did. Well, we can't use that. So let's use. We'll do the shot of the camera here. So I'm going to hit I to mark it in, O to mark it out, and insert. Inserts that clip, pushes the other clips down to the right. And we'll do one more. Let's do the cute picture of this dog here. Okay, and then once again, mark it in, mark it out. And this time, with my playhead still at this edit point, I'm just going to click, drag over to the program monitor. I'm going to drop this on insert. Inserts the clip, pushes all the other clips down to the right. I'm going to drag my playhead back and check it.
Lunch break.
Just a minute.
No, now.
Okay, so let's do a couple more of these. So I'm just going to drag my playhead back to the beginning of this first Scene 20 clip. So it snaps in between this cutaway or this insert shot here and the first Scene 20 clip. I'm going to go back to my Scene 20 clips bin, And we do have a shot of Tristan walking. 20F take 3. 20F take 3. Okay, so maybe I want a couple seconds of this to kind of start out the scene. Okay, so I'm going to mark a couple seconds of this. I to mark it in. 1001, 1002, 1003. O to mark it out. Maybe back this up just a little bit. O to mark it out. And here's why we're not going to overwrite. Here's why we don't want to overwrite it. If I hit the overwrite button, starting at the playhead, it would overwrite or cover up whatever was in front of the playhead. Okay, so, or after the playhead technically, I guess. So let's just take a look at this. So here's the overwrite button. Period is the keyboard shortcut. If I hit that, it's going to overwrite or cover up part of that clip. Just going to drag my playhead back and check it.
Just a minute. No.
See, I covered up part of her line here with that overwrite. I did not want to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to hit Command Z to undo that. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo it, and now I'm going to do an insert. I'm going to hit the insert button or comma on my keyboard to insert the walking, and now it pushes these other clips down to the right. I'm going to drag my playhead back and check it.
Lunch break.
Just a minute.
No, now.
Okay.
Okay, so that's better. Now let's take a look at a situation where we do want to do an override. Okay, so there are a couple of places here where I think we could maybe add some good reaction shots. Okay, so I'm going to just play it from here.
What is this? Green tea. But I wanted a Coke.
Soda's bad for you. Plus, you've been looking a little puffy lately.
Okay, right there. She says, you're looking a little puffy lately. This is a good place to cut to Rory reacting. Okay, so I'm going to play it, and I'm going to put my playhead right after she says puffy lately.
Soda's bad for you. Plus, you've been looking a little puffy lately.
Okay, right about there. So I'm just going to leave my playhead right there. That's where we're going to put our next clip. I'm going to go over to my Scene 20 clip spin, find one of Rory's close-ups. We'll just start with take 3. We'll see if this is the one we want to use. But once again, I'm going to go find that line where she says you're looking a little puffy lately.
Soda's bad for you, and you've been looking a little puffy lately. So this is better for you. Trust me.
Okay, so she does this kind of, where she puts her hand up, like she's kind of worried about it. Okay, so I'm going to hit I to mark it in.
Better for you. Trust me.
O to mark it out. Now, here's where the patch panel comes in. Okay, I don't want the audio from this clip in the timeline. I only want to bring the video. So over here on the patch panel, I'm going to turn A1 and A2 on the source side. I'm going to turn those off. And I'm basically saying, don't bring the audio. The video, I want to put the video up here onto the second video track. So I'm going to grab my video 1 source and I'm going to drag it up to video 2. And I'm basically saying, take the video from my source clip and edit it up here onto video 2. Don't bring the audio. Now, we don't want to do an insert. This is where we want to do an overwrite. So I'm going to hit the overwrite button or period on my keyboard. And it's going to overwrite that clip onto the video 2 track. I'm going to drag my playhead back and check my work.
What is this? Green tea. But I wanted a Coke.
Soda's bad for you. Plus, you've been looking a little puffy lately. This is better for you. Trust me. Where's Hal?
He's out with John and Vincent.
Okay, and there's my reaction shot. Okay, now I'm just going to play through this, and pretty much any of these longer clips here, I probably want to cut to a reaction maybe in the middle of them. Okay, so I'm going to repeat this process a couple times.
Why do you let him do that to you?
What?
Dump all the work on you?
He doesn't.
He's never here.
He works at night.
Really?
Yes, it's true. He finishes projects from the day before and starts on new projects for the next day.
Okay, so this would be a good place to show Tristan reacting to that. Maybe we'll do a medium shot. Okay, so I'm just going to load her medium shot in. I'm going to listen for that line of dialogue. So what's the line of dialogue? What's Rory saying?
Yes, it's true. He finishes projects from the day before and starts...
Okay, he finishes projects from the day before. Let's find that here.
Just a minute.
No. Now.
Okay. What is this?
Green tea.
But I wanted a Coke.
Soda's bad for you. Plus, you've been looking a little puffy lately, so this is better for you. Trust me. Where's Hal?
He's out with John and Vincent.
Why do you let him do that to you?
What?
Dump all the work on you?
He doesn't.
He's never here.
He works at night.
Really?
Yeah, it's true. He finishes projects from the day before and sets up projects for the next day.
Okay, right there. She's giving the kind of look there. So I'm just going to mark an in and an out around that.
Yeah, it's kind of the
So I'm just going to mark an in.
projects for the next day. Sometimes
I'm going to mark an out. And then once again, I'm going to double check my patching down here because we don't want to bring the audio in. We don't care about audio. We just care about the video. So A1 and A2 are still off. Video 1 is still patched to video 2. My playhead is where I want to put that shot. And then I'm going to overwrite. I'm going to hit the overwrite button or period on my keyboard to overwrite that reaction shot in. And the thing is, we're putting it on an upper track. And basically, when the playhead plays through the timeline, whatever's on top is what you're going to see in the program monitor when the playhead hits it.
Really?
yes, it's true. He finishes projects from the day before and starts on new projects for the next day. Sometimes I think he just leaves because the sun is coming up.
You're such an...
Okay, I feel like that reaction is a little too early, but all I can do is I can just grab it and just drag it a little over to the right so it starts a little later, drag my playhead back and check it.
Really?
Yes, it's true. He finishes projects from the day before and starts on new projects for the next day. Sometimes I think he just leaves because the sun is coming up.
You're such an apologist for him. He's taking advantage
Okay, I'm going to do this a couple more times.
of you.
No, he isn't. He isn't.
You know what I say?
What?
I say you open your own business. You're too good to be working for someone who slacks off. And
Okay, somewhere around here,
What?
I say you open your own business.
somewhere around you open your own business. We'll go to a medium shot of Rory. Let's zoom out here.
Where's Hal?
He's out with John and Vincent.
Why do you let him do that?
What?
Dump all the work on you?
He doesn't.
He's never here.
He works at night.
Really?
Yes, it's true. He finishes projects from the day before and starts on new projects for the next day. Sometimes I think he just leaves because the sun is coming up.
Why are you such an apologist for him? I think he's taking advantage of you.
He doesn't. He doesn't.
You know what I say?
What?
I say you open your own business. You're too good to work for someone who slacks off any chance he gets and leaves you to do all the work.
That's
Okay, so right there. So once again, it really doesn't matter what Tristan is saying. We just need her reaction. So I'm going to mark an in and an out.
Work for someone who slacks off any chance he gets and leaves you to do all the work.
That's
Girl, well, all we do.
So we'll mark that little piece right there. Double check my patching. Video 1 patched to video 2. A1 and A2 on the source side are off. And overwrite or period on my keyboard. Drag my playhead back and check it.
You know what I say?
what?
I say you open your own business. You're too good to be working for someone who slacks off and leaves you to do all the work.
That's not how it is. I already told you we split the work equally. Really.
Sure.
Okay, I think that works. I think we've got one or two more we can put in here.
Really, if Hal could work for 24 hours, I'm sure he would.
Oh, yes, he's such a saint. You know, I bet he never even leaves. He probably crawls under desk and sleeps whenever he gets tired.
Okay, so right about here, that would be a good, her kind of laughing at that. So once again, I still have this loaded in the source monitor.
To do all the work.
That's not how it is. I already told you we split the work equally. Really.
Sure.
Really, if Hal could work for 24 hours, I'm sure he would.
Oh, yes, he's a saint. Maybe he didn't leave at all. Maybe he just crawls out.
Okay, right there. So her little laugh right here. I to marking in.
Maybe he just crawls under the desk.
O to marking out. My plate is where I want that clip to go in the timeline. Video 1 is patched to video 2. The other 2 tracks are off. And this time I'm going to click in the middle of my source monitor, drag over to the program monitor, and I'm going to drop this on overlay. Or actually, no, not overlay, sorry, overwrite. Overwrite, that's what I want. And that's going to put that up on the video 2 track.
Really, if Hal could work for 24 hours, I'm sure he would.
Oh, yes, he's such a saint. You know, I bet he never even leaves. He probably crawls under desk and sleeps whenever he gets tired.
Okay, I feel like that started a little too early, so I'm just going to click on that in the timeline. I'm just going to drag it a little bit to the right.
Oh, yes, he's such a saint. You know, I bet he never even leaves. He probably crawls under desk and sleeps whenever he gets tired.
No. That's weird. Your mind's not working right.
Or maybe it works too well.
What is this?
A veggie burger.
But I wanted a hamburger.
No, you didn't. This is better.
What, is this one of those fake meat pretend burgers?
No, I don't trust those. This is true veggie.
But I really wanted a hamburger.
No, this is more healthy. Trust me.
Okay, so let's see if we can find a reaction shot. We might not have a good reaction shot for Tristan here, but let's see if we can find one. From the end of either of these takes.
But is this some pretend meat burger?
No, I don't trust those. This is true veggie.
But I...
No, you didn't. This is much healthier. Trust me.
Okay, there we go. So yeah, she does a little proud look there. So we'll just mark an in and an out around that. Probably right about here. Once again, video 1 is still on, A1 and A2 off. And we're just going to hit the overwrite button or period on our keyboard. Drag our play it back and check it. Okay, and I think we could do one more. Let's drag our playhead to the end of this clip. And once again, I'll just let it snap like a magnet. And we do have a shot of her picking up the burger. 20K take 1. Okay, and we'll just mark a kind of an in and an out around that. I to mark an in. O to mark an out. Once again, video 1 still patched to video 2, A1 and A2 off. Overwrite. Let's see if this works. And there we go. Okay, so anytime you find yourself pausing, hit Command S to save your work. And now we're just going to do a couple of little touch-up things on this sequence here, okay? We've got a pretty decent edit going. Still a few things I want to fix, but overall, we're kind of happy with it. But now let's talk about trimming a little bit of this stuff out. Let's talk about getting rid of some of this stuff. Okay, now we're going to talk about very straightforward ways of removing parts of clips. Okay, there are actually really good trim tools in Premiere Pro. We will talk about those in a different lesson, but for this one, we're going to keep it simple. So I'm just gone back to the beginning of my sequence here. We've got these 4 clips, these shots from around her desk. And I feel like they are way too long. Okay, they're probably twice as long as they should be. So I'm going to trim them. And we're going to do it this way. We're going to add an edit to the clip and simply delete the part that we don't want. Okay, as I said, there are other tools for doing this, but we're going to take a more straightforward approach. So up until now, we have just been using our selection tool to do our editing. Okay, so if we go over here, this is called our tool palette. Our main tool that you're going to use most of the time is called your selection tool. But there are other tools available to us here. And the 4th tool down is called the razor tool. And the razor tool we can use to add edits into a clip. Okay, so I'm going to click on the razor tool, and I'm going to put my mouse over the timeline. And when I do, it turns into the razor tool. But it's a razor with a slash through it. And that basically means you can't use the tool here. But as soon as you put it over a clip, now it looks like a razor blade. And what I can do is I can put my mouse over a clip and I can click to split the clip. So let's say I want to cut this clip in half. I put my mouse over the clip and I click, and that's going to add an edit. And I've split the clip. Now you'll see on my system here that I now see these little white arrows. Some people call that the bow tie, to let me know that I've added an edit there. Okay, that's if you've added an edit. Now, if you're not seeing that, the timeline has its own settings menu, this little wrench menu right here. And this is called a through edit, when you add an edit like that, and it's frame to frame on both sides of the edit. So if I uncheck that, show through edits, I no longer see those little white arrows. And it makes it hard to see if you've added an edit to a clip. Because even though there's an edit there, if I were to play it and look at my program monitor, you would have no idea that there's an edit there. Okay, because it's frame to frame. So that's why they've got this option to click on this settings menu, that wrench menu, and say show through edits. So you can see where those through edits are. Okay, now I've split the clip in half, and let's say I want to get rid of the first part of the clip. Well, I can go back to my arrow tool, my selection tool. I'm going to go over to my tool palette, click on my selection tool. I'm going to click on the part of the clip that I want to get rid of, and I'm going to hit the backspace key, the delete key, on my keyboard. That deletes that clip, but it leaves a gap in the timeline, and I don't want a gap. So I can now click in the gap to select the gap and hit delete again, and that will close the gap. I've now trimmed that clip. I split the clip, deleted the part that I didn't want. It left a gap, so I clicked in the gap and I hit delete again, and that deleted the gap. That clip is now much shorter. Okay, so let me show you another way to do that. I'm going to grab my razor tool again. I'm going to grab my razor tool again, the next clip over. Once again, I'm going to click somewhere in the middle to split that clip. I'm going to go back to my selection tool. I'm going to go over to my tool palette, click on the selection tool. Let's say I want to get rid of the second part of the clip. So I click on it. Now I'm always trying to save myself a step here and there. So instead of deleting the clip and then deleting the gap, I can delete the clip and the gap at the same time by hitting Option backspace on my keyboard. Option backspace will do what's called a ripple delete. Deletes the clip and closes the gap at the same time. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that, just so you can watch it again. So once again, I click on the clip, and I can do Option Delete. Alternatively, you could have also right-clicked and from this menu chosen Ripple Delete. going to drag my playhead back. And then I'm going to repeat that process. I'm going to grab my razor tool, split the clip, go back to my arrow tool, click the part of the clip that I want to get rid of, Option, Delete. And then finally this last clip here, grab my razor tool, split the clip, go back to my arrow tool, delete the part that I don't want, Option, Delete. Now, as I said, there are other better tools for doing this, but when you're first starting out, this is a little easier to understand. Okay, and this actually more resembles back in the day where we were actually cutting film. You know, actually cutting and splicing film and kind of taping it back together. Okay, now I'm just going to play this and see how it feels.
Lunch break.
Okay, so now I want to replace this. So once again, here's how I can do this.
Lunch break.
Okay, so I've got a different shot of her walking and saying lunch break. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to overwrite this part of the clip with the clip that I want. Okay, so let's first of all find the shot of her saying lunch break. Okay, so we've got 20G. We've got 20G take 1, 20G take 2. I'm just going to start with take 2.
Scene 20G. Take 2.
So once again, we're going to start walking, then give me a couple beats after action, and then your line. Okay, here we go, and action.
Lunch break.
Okay, right here. Okay, so
Lunch break.
okay, so we're going to get kind of clever with this one. I'm going to mark an in and an out over the part of the clip that I want to replace in the timeline. Okay, so I'm going to drag my playhead to the beginning of the clip until I see it snap like a magnet to the head of the clip, and I'm going to hit I to mark an in. Okay, this is our first time really marking an endpoint in the timeline. Up until now, we've been using our playhead as our endpoint. But if you specifically mark an endpoint by hitting I, this will now take precedence over the playhead. I'm going to play it.
Lunch break.
And I'm going to hit O after she says lunch break. Okay, so now I've marked an in and an out in the timeline of the part of the clip that I want to replace. Then I know I want this to end with her saying lunch break. Okay, here we go, and action.
Lunch break.
So after she says lunch break in the source monitor, I'm going to hit O to mark an out. And I'm setting up what's called a 3-point edit. I've marked an in and an out in the timeline and just an out point in the source monitor. And it's going to take whatever it needs before the out point to fill in this space in the timeline. This is also referred to when you mark an out point instead of an in point. This is called back timing the edit. Okay, now I'm still not ready to do the edit yet because I want to overwrite or cover up all of this in the timeline. So this is where the patch panel comes in. First of all, we want V1 back down on V1 because we're covering up where we're overwriting this. And then we do want the audio from these clips. So I'm going to turn A1 and A2 back on. Okay, so I've marked an in and an out around the part of the clip that I want to overwrite. I've turned all these tracks back on. V1 patch to V1, A1 and A2 patch to A1 and A2. And I've marked just an out point in the source monitor. Now I'm going to overwrite. I'm going to hit the overwrite button or period on my keyboard. And then I'm going to drag my playhead back and check my work.
Lunch break.
Just a minute.
No, now.
Okay, now we're going to do the same thing over here, but we're going to do it a different way. I've got a shot of Rory saying just a minute. So I'm going to start by removing the part of the clip here where she says just a minute.
Just a minute.
Okay, so I'm going to put my playhead right after she says just a minute. I'm going to grab my razor tool, and I'm going to split the clip at that point. Notice that my razor tool will actually snap to the playhead. And then I can click and add my edit. Go back to my arrow tool, delete the part of the clip where she says just a minute.
Just a minute.
Click it, Option Delete. Option Delete will delete that clip and close the gap. But now we need to go find the shot that we want to insert here. So I'm going to scroll down, and it is 20H. Looks like we've got a 20H take 1, 20H take 2. We'll do 20H take 2. And I believe she does it a couple times here, so we'll watch both of them. Once again, lean out further again just so I can get ready. Good, very good. Okay, and action.
Lunch break.
Just a minute.
We're going to keep it rolling. Okay, and one more time, action.
Lunch break.
Just a minute.
Okay, we'll do the second one.
Lunch break.
Okay, so I'm going to mark an endpoint just after lunch break
Just a minute.
and an out point right after just a minute. Okay, I'm going to hit play video into
Just a
out.
minute.
And then my playheads where I want to insert that clip, V1, A1, and A2 are all on. This time I want to do an insert. So I'm going to hit the insert button or comma on my keyboard. I'm going to drag my playhead back and check it.
Lunch break.
Just a minute.
No, now.
Okay, and there is, I've replaced that clip. Now, as I said, there are a lot of other ways to do this. This particular lesson, we're just keeping it super simple. Super simple. Okay, now, we're going to take a short break here. When we come back from break, we're going to talk about a quick way to kind of get the audio kind of where we want it. There's going to be a little, tweaking we have to do here and there. But we're going to do a little bit of audio. Then we're going to talk about how to export this. Okay, so if you haven't gotten this finished, go ahead and pause the video here. Finish your sequence. And when we come back, we'll do a little bit of audio. Then we'll talk about exporting.